Simon, I've got to put it to you. With each passing week, are players and managers becoming more erratic in their analysis and observations of VAR? The reason I ask you is that just days, it seems, ago, you and I sat through a number of statements coming out of Nottingham Forest regarding those penalty decisions that they feel very much went against them in the match at Goodison against Everton. Not one, not two, but three. Yeah. And Nottingham Forest seemingly lost their heads with rolling statements last week, which began with alleged bias. And then Chelsea boss Mauricio Pochettino has now claimed VAR has damaged the image of English football after the Chelsea winner, in his eyes, from Disasi against Villa was ruled out by VAR due to a foul earlier in the build-up. I mean, this is what Pochettino had to say.
That damaged a little bit the Premier League and the image. If we want to be the best league on the world, I think this type of thing is about to protect more, the spectacle and the decision. Damage my team, damage my player, my fans, damage football on them.
I mean, not that long ago, Simon, Ange Postecoglou was saying, VAR, I mean, it's here, we've got to live with it. I'm not one to pick on something and use it as an excuse for a reason that we may have as a grievance in football. And now he's spoken more recently on VAR and its use.
There's no point, mate. I've said all year, I don't think games get officiated at the stadiums anymore. It's why I don't celebrate goals. I wait for somebody down the road to tell me what the outcomes are, and unfortunately that's the way football's gone. So you just got to accept whatever decision somebody miles away from you makes.
That was after the North London derby, Simon.
Yeah.
So even Ange has got more sceptical about the process that is being used.
Well, look, let's look at the language that's being used by Pochettino and see if he's correct. I don't think VAR is damaging English football. I think in its current incarnation, it's damaging football because it isn't good enough. The technology isn't where it needs to be. The principle of VAR, you and I are believers that VAR is a necessity, a necessary evil to serve a greater good, right? And it's been brought upon itself by the endless carping and complaining and constant deriding of the officials on the pitch. So now you've got another spectre. You've got another looming shadow to moan about because it wasn't good enough that referees were making mistakes. You didn't accept those, so you wanted VAR. Now VAR is making less mistakes, but still making mistakes. You don't want that either. All right. So what is it that you actually want? Because whatever you've got, you're not happy with. But the problem is that we did not bring technology in to disadvantage and to disrupt the game.
No.
And the more I go to Premier League games, I've been to a lot of Championship games and EFL games. You don't see it there. But the more you go to Premier League games, the more I start to move and adjust my position. It is not right at football stadiums. The more I think about it, and I have this sort of attitude that football fans need to dial down the entitlement, but the more you sit in football stadiums and you see VAR adjudicating and nobody in the football stadium knows what's going on, the more I'm beginning to think that's wrong. That can't be right. That can't be what football wanted to achieve. So the implementation of VAR, to my mind, is not right. The amount of time it takes to make decisions, the fact that football fans are sitting inside football stadiums and do not have the faintest idea, and yet after the event's been determined, you can see the replays on the big screens. So why can't you see what's going on before so that everybody's included in the process? This generation of VAR is damaging football. It's not damaging English football. It's damaging football in perpetuity because, like balance sheets, like financial fair play, we are now considering everything other than sporting merit. We're considering somebody drawing digital lines from a starting position in a studio. We're considering accountants telling us what the balance sheets look like. We're telling lawyers decide what the football table looks like. All of these are not what football should be built upon and what it was never built upon. So the technology has got to get better.
And what are you looking for? Just communication as to how they get to a decision?
Well, I'm looking for...
so that the people in the stadium can hear it.
I think that now has to be part of it. I'm looking for a process that's massively speeded up. I'm looking for automation. So that offside decisions are instantaneous. And I'm looking for the industry and these people like Ange Postecoglou and Pochettino that would have been sat in the same camp criticising the referee and saying that the referee's performance, it's one thing criticising somebody, because we're all able to do it, and it's a gift of a human being to be able to opine in a negative as well as a praiseworthy mentality. But you don't offer any solutions. You just complain.
Well, this is the thing.
Right? And now you've got VAR, which, whilst we don't like certain aspects of it, statistically is better, but you still don't like it. So you either accept the principle of how have we landed at this point? Why is VAR here?
Yeah.
VAR is here because of the advent of media and the constant...
the carping and whining of those in the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's reducing the conversation to its lowest common denominator, but it is in part driving the fueling the thinking.
But do you know what they forget, though, Simons? And I'm going to jump in. After all the ranting, that game at Everton against Forest, not 1, not 2, but 3 penalties Forest feel they should have had. We saw the statements.
They've been emboldened.
As they came out. The Premier League's independent key match incidents panel ruled that out of the 3 contentious decisions, only 1 was deemed a VAR error.
Yeah.
So the panel's saying, not the 3 of them, but we got 1 wrong, and we'll hold our hands up. That panel includes former professional players.
But you won't hear that so much. That noise won't get the level. I always felt that the moment Howard Webb started to assert the authority of referees and start to push back on the respect culture that he demanded of referees, we were going to start to see so-called football people starting to push back against the integrities of referees, looking to go after them. And what we've now seen is that happening. Now, they haven't helped themselves, the refereeing fraternity, but this season we saw a directive from Howard Webb. Came in the studio, talked about it, saw it from we're not having any of this nonsense. Not having these players behave this way. Not having these managers behave this way. There will be, and I thought there's going to be a sting in the tail for this one, because the football mafia are going to get together and they're going to find a way to undermine the refereeing fraternity by finding a way to discredit what the referees are doing. And the referees don't help themselves because some of the things they've done have been rather silly and some of the decisions they've made have been rather poor. And Nottingham Forest would point towards, well, it's okay that 2 of the decisions weren't bad, but one of them was, so we still lost out. So they still have that argument.
Right.
But the fact is that all this background noise about ex-players should have been there, ex-players should have been there, well, they were there. And they sat there and they came out with the same outcomes.
That's right.
Souness was in the same camp.
That's
Other
right.
people in the same camp. It's an imperfect world. We can't square circles. Get on with it. And the football people refuse to get on with it. They refuse to accept that they make mistakes, that players make mistakes, that owners make mistakes, referees make mistakes. The only thing I will agree with them on, in the principle of all this debate, is this cannot be what we want. It cannot be a screen sitting there telling VR decision and the crowd waiting for 2.5 minutes. It cannot be that. That wasn't the end game, surely.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.